here in Westchester, Pennsylvania. Just want to take a quick moment to say that I'm gay. I've been meaning to do this for a while now, but I finally feel comfortable enough to get it off my chest. I really have the best life. I got the best family, friends, and job a guy could ask for. I'm a pretty private person, so I hope you guys know that I'm really not doing this for attention. I just think that representation and visibility are so important. I actually hope that one day videos like this and the whole coming out process are just not necessary. But until then, I'm going to do my best and do my part to cultivate a culture that's accepting, that's compassionate, and I'm going to start by donating $100,000 to the Trevor Project. They're an incredible organization. They're the #1 suicide prevention service for LGBTQ youth in America, and they're truly doing incredible things. And I'm very excited to be a part of it, to help in any way that I can, and I'm really pumped to see what the future holds.
Here was just some of the reaction to Carl Nassib's announcement yesterday. His head coach John Gruden said, quote, "I learned a long time ago what makes a man different is what makes a man great." From Cardinals defensive lineman J.J. Watt, "Good for you, Carl. Glad you feel comfortable enough to share, and hopefully someday these types of announcements will no longer be considered breaking news." His former teammate at Penn State, Saquon Barkley, tweeted, "Much respect, Britta." And Pro Football Hall of Famer Warren Moon tweeted, "Really proud of Carl Nassib, the first active football player to ever do so. I played with several guys who never were comfortable enough to go public. They were great teammates, obviously very talented." Welcome to NFL Live alongside Marcus Spears and Mina Kimes and Dan Graziano. I am Field Yates, and we'll dive right into the news that was announced late during our show yesterday. Mina, about 24 hours later, what's been your reaction for how well this news is being received around the league?
Field, it's wonderful. It's really heartening to see. And I was struck by what J.J. Watt said, because he echoed what Carl himself said in a statement, which is that he looks forward to the day when this sort of announcement is no longer needed. And, that got me thinking. I saw a lot of people responding to the announcement with the question of, well, why is this news? Well, it's news for a couple reasons. One, he is truly breaking ground, first active player to come out and to do so publicly like this. It is historic, but also it's meaningful for a lot of people. It might not be meaningful for you, whoever you are, and that's fine, but I can guarantee you there are many, many people out there who heard this news and maybe felt accepted in this sport for the first time. That is incredibly impactful. And to see Carl embraced by the community, by stars both past and present, it feels like a sea change in the NFL, like the start of something great, and it makes me really happy to see it.
I think the thing most impressive sitting here after it broke yesterday is how much of this is not about Carl Nassib. Right? He came out, but he came out in order to let his light shine for other people to feel comfortable and feel that freedom that everyone should feel about being exactly who they are. So that's the thought that I have, and it goes along with a long history in this country. There has to be groundbreakers in order to make a whole generation comfortable about who they are and in their own skin. So that's what I applaud more than anything. Carl Nassib is fine with who he is as a person. We are not up here to debate about why he did it or what should he have done it. That wasn't the reason he did it. He did it so his light would shine for a lot of other people that are afraid or uncomfortable to do this, and gave them the passage in order to say and be exactly who they are. And that's why he deserves credit.
Yeah, and not just, Mark, not just people inside the NFL either, but I mean, these guys, as you know, are such public figures, right? Like what they do and what they say and what they represent means something to people who are viewers and fans. And so look, the Trevor Project exists because of the struggles that young people have with coming out, with coming, to terms with going public with who they actually are inside. And so, it's great to see this, great to see the donation, great that the NFL just announced it's matching his donation to the Trevor Project, outstanding. But yeah, I think the most important thing is just, if there are people out there who don't think it's okay to be openly who you are, this helps with that, and it'll definitely, hopefully, make it easier for at least someone, and hopefully a lot of people.
Well, it can sometimes only take just one person to make a significant movement, and Carl Nassib seems to be primed to do exactly that. As a matter of fact, Adam Schefter recently tweeted that both yesterday and today, the top-selling jersey on Fanatics.com is Carl Nassib. So it must be great for him to know there are so many people who are behind him and supporting his decision to make what has certainly been a difficult private life more public just 24 hours ago. Pivoting to Lamar Jackson, who is entering his 4th season and recently had this to say, quote, "It's really not the off-season anymore. For us, I'll say, we've just got to keep grinding and staying in shape. People are always saying we throw short, intermediate routes and stuff like that, little 5-yard, 10-yard routes. But we had some chances last year. We hit some of them. But we're just trying to be more consistent this year." To be more precise, Lamar Jackson hit on 38% of his deep passes last season, which was 24th in the NFL, below the league average. But it wasn't for a lack of trying. 12% of Jackson's total passes went at least 20 yards downfield, the 6th highest percentage in the league last year. I mean, you had a chance to rewatch some of Lamar's deep throws last year. What stands out in watching them, and is there room for improvement for Lamar in a key part of his passing game?
Yeah, Field, it was interesting because, the deep ball has never been the greatest strength of Lamar's game, but he was better throwing the ball downfield in 2019 during his MVP season. And rewatching all of his 20-yard plus throws this morning, I was trying to identify, what might be happening, what could be the cause for why his performance dipped. It's not arm strength. He can throw it downfield. In fact, when you watch these attempts, a lot of them are overthrows. Right here against the Washington football team, he's trying to hit Hollywood Brown, who's the #1 wide receiver in the Ravens offense, and you can see he overthrows him by quite a few yards. He's open. This is the same game, and I wanted to highlight this. There's 42 seconds left in the half, so he had to go deep, try to push the ball downfield, splitting the 2 DBs. This time, Hollywood could arguably have laid out and caught it, and it's not an overthrow. That one's on Brown. And I wanted to put those side by side because I think something that stands out when you watch a lot of these overthrows is the likelihood that Lamar Jackson doesn't trust his receiving group. He doesn't attempt that many tight window throws. I think some of his inaccuracy stems from the fact that he's worried that they're not going to win at the catch point. That is not a strength of Hollywood's game. And I think it's why it's so important that for all of the speed that they do have, they augmented that group of receivers with Sammy Watkins, signing him in this offseason, drafting Rashad Bateman, who you guys know I love, out of Minnesota.
In the progression of a passing game and depend on the run game and Lamar Jackson to make these out of pocket plays, that is not going to successfully lead them in ultimately where they want to get to. So this is not only about Lamar Jackson gaining that trust with his wide receivers. This is about a coaching staff as well, putting emphasis on the passing game and allowing that run game to give them opportunities for Lamar Jackson to feel more and more comfortable as this season goes along, pushing the ball downfield. So when we get to the point of next season and the Baltimore Ravens are having success, and 1 week they rush for 295 yards and 4 touchdowns, don't get it twisted and believe that that is going to be the way that they're going to do all season long and win a Super Bowl. It's not going to happen. Evolve the passing game by concepts, by guys that Lamar trusts, but also getting enough reps and putting them in game time situations so it's not new and it's not pressure when he has to do it.
That's why I think the offseason is the biggest key to the necessary development of the Ravens offense this year. Go back to last year. Yes, Lamar Jackson was coming off of an MVP season, but he was 23, And the Ravens had plans for his further development and ascension that they really didn't have the time or the ability to put in off season. There weren't preseason games. I think you saw the Ravens offense develop and flourish later in the season, but I don't know that there's a team out there that was more affected, a top team out there that was more affected by the lack of an offseason than this one, because they weren't able to put in what they wanted to put in that would have been in addition to all the great things he did in 2019. So it's not just trust, I think it's also time on task, and I think the ability of the coaching staff to work with Lamar Jackson on whatever it is that he needs to continue to get better at age 24 will be a big part of the story as the Ravens head into this season.
Well, Dan, you mentioned the coaching staff. I think it's also worth noting that David Culley, who was their passing game coordinator, he's gone. He's now the head coach in Houston. They brought in 2 new coaches to help with the passing attack. Keith Williams, who is a wide receivers coach, has worked with Devontae Adams, and then T. Martin, who we know from just being everywhere, frankly. And I think that's going to be a key part in, again, advancing this passing game, which did take a step back last year.
Well, and also to be mentioned about Lamar Jackson, he is, of course, now eligible for a contract extension. So whether his improvement in the passing game takes place or not, he could very well be paid by the time training camp rolls around. We're just getting started here on NFL Live, and there is a battle in the Bay Area. Kyle Shanahan says Jimmy G had his best spring yet in OTAs, but are we really buying into the high praise for the quarterback? And Von Miller teamed up with DeMarcus Ware to coach up some pass rushers around the league. Marcus has got a new name for a famous spin move. You want to stick around for that one.
I can't play basketball, opportunity. It's not just the Von Miller coach clinic. It's for all of us to get here and learn something from each other, man. We were doing it for a while, and I felt like it paid a lot of dividends for everybody, and I just wanted to keep it going, and here we are today. The guard or the tackle will be like this, or look like this. I like to get as many clues as I can to get a great jump. When you get a true one-on-one, you gotta have a good inside move. And for me, it's always been a spin. I'm getting up the field. Like I said, I'm anticipating snap count. I'm getting up the field, and how I like to run the spin, I don't like to step and then spin, cause I want them to I want it to be a surprise. Like basketball again, I can't play basketball, but when you see these guys come and they spin, it's all fluid.
A lot of dudes just wanna do that. I'm here. Look, I touch my hands off. Look, see that? So now bring them hands back. Bring them back in. I'm gone. Keep it real tight.
This situation right here on the offensive lineman is death.
You're right.
It's over. I'd rather be 10 yards up the field. I'd rather be 10 yards up the field like this than to be at the quarterback and the quarterback standing behind them and we like this. The tight end university and all the masterminds, man. But we know where it started at, man. With you guys, man. With the rushers, man. Hey, ground out, do what you do.
All right, Marcus, we got some people saying, why is Von sharing his secrets to all that success? But what do you make of these guys helping each other out?
It's amazing, man. It's amazing to see Von, and amazing to see D. Ware, who I played with in Dallas for 8 years. These guys are passing knowledge because it elevates the position, right? And as the position elevates, the money elevates. The more and more you have more pass rushers, there's a premium put on that because obviously Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware, former Super Bowl champions, they added value to the rush position. Not like it needed it, but as the money goes up, these guys are sharing experiences, sharing little tidbits, and understanding that the more and more pass rushers that they have in the NFL, the better they are when they go to the table. That's number one. Number two, playing with D. Ware, he's a teacher. That is what he loves to do. He loves teaching the position. I just don't know why he's not telling everybody I taught him every damn thing he know about playing football from day one. But we'll get on the phone and have a conversation about that. But realistically, man, both of those, I think it's great that they do it. You get amongst your peers, and your peers are the people that you really want respect from. And the fact that those guys show up for Von Miller, that's a big deal. And it's great what they're doing. It's elevating the position.
And by the way, you can't tell me that DeMarcus Ware couldn't give some team 25 snaps this Sunday if there was a game. He's keeping himself in great shape. But Swaggy, we'll go right back to you for
100%.
What are some of your favorite pass rush moves of all time when you think about the great rushers?
Listen, man, it was amongst all of us in the NFL. Dwight Freeney and his spin move. And I'm going to call it the Freeney from now on. From NFL Live, this will forever be known as the Freeney. He had arguably the best spin move in the history of the NFL. For a guy to be able to do that, turn his back to the line of scrimmage, it's a lot of defensive line coaches in the NFL that when you try to spin and get caught up, they tell you, man, you ain't Dwight Freeney. Don't try that. He was so low into the ground and able to finish these rushes. And the ultimate, the guy that made me want to play football, I looked up to, I tried to emulate Reggie White and the hump move. It's the best move ever in the NFL from a defensive lineman. Reggie White was so strong, but people forget the speed in which he came off the edge. It was more about the speed than the strength. Get offensive linemen to retreat, act like you're about to bull rush them, make them sit down, and then Reg would hump them and get to the quarterback. He was the beast, the minister of defense. It's a lot of his underlings still playing in the NFL, still trying to do that move. We just don't have it like Reggie had it. RIP to the GOAT, man.
That's right. Often imitated, never duplicated. But Mina, as we think about the pass rushing summit and the possibility of finding the next great pass rusher, is there a name that might come to mind for you?
There's a couple, Field. I mean, you know, we see some of the names of guys who have gone to Von Miller's Summit, Calais Campbell, Bradley Chubb, and Ngakoue. We know them. So who's the next generation? I was looking at some of the guys who went this year. A name that jumped out to me was Rashawn Gary out of Green Bay. First-round draft pick, got off to a bit of a slow start, I think, to his NFL career, but you really saw him starting to come on towards the end of the season last year. Explosive, freak athlete, particularly against the Rams in the playoffs. I believe he had 1.5 sacks, and you saw the potential there playing opposite Zadarius Smith, what he could mean to that defense. Another Michigan man who was also at the summit, Josh Uche in New England, I think is going to have a huge year. So he was injured last season, played limited snaps. Bit of a tweener coming out of college, didn't have a ton of pass rush production, so he's kind of a question mark at Michigan. But what's not a question mark to me is the explosive ability, the speed, the flexibility, which is a Von Miller hallmark. I think this guy has sky-high potential, and playing next to Dante Hightower and Kyle Van Noy is going to be huge for unlocking him this season in New England.
Yeah, the Patriots certainly feel like their defense should be much better this year, and a big part of that will be Josh Uche, who had just 1 sack last season. I got a feeling that number could skyrocket this upcoming year. So the pass rusher started the trends. The tight ends are following their lead as they gathered for Tight End U this week in Nashville to share their skills. Mina will tell us who might be the next great tight end.
The teams that are playing at elite levels have elite tight ends that are making plays for them on a consistent basis.
You get better with competition.
Care deeply about Jimmy, but when Trey's ready, he's ready.
All you can really ask for is the opportunity.
In New England, it's truly a competition.
You'll be a fool not to think that I don't want to be a starter.
If Mac outplays it, Campbell will be standing right over there next to Bill.
Andy is our starter, and Justin's our number 2.
I've been in a situation like this before.
I think Fields should start day 1.
Rookie quarterback competitions will be one of the biggest storylines as we head towards training camp, and we're going to play a little game called Something, Nothing, Everything, with some recent comments related to these rookie signal callers. We'll start with Bears rookie Justin Fields, who said he will report to camp 2 weeks early. Quote, "For me personally, I have to do something football related, whether it's studying my plays for 45 minutes, an hour, or working out. I have to do something to feel like I'm being productive because I love to feel like I'm being productive, and I don't like feeling like I'm being lazy because that's one thing I can control is my work ethic." All right, Swagoo, we'll start with you. Something, nothing, or everything here from Justin Fields?
In the famous words of one of my favorite artists, Young Jeezy, I put that on everything. It's everything, man. I mean, look, Justin Fields understands that if he can grasp this playbook and he's ready to be the signal caller, his talent is way beyond what Andy Dalton can offer to the Chicago Bears. The only thing is Andy Dalton has experience over him. So showing up 2 weeks early, getting ready, doing something mentally every day. And I know people at home, that's what the hell he should be doing. They paying him millions of dollars. Well, the reality is all of them don't. All right, so Justin Fields having this type of attitude, this type of mentality, he understands and sees what a lot of other people see, the fact that he could take over this starting role as long as he knows how to go through this playbook and is ready to execute the plays that are called.
You know, it reminded me a little bit. Last summer I was talking to Jalen Hurts' personal quarterback coach, Quincy Avery, works with a lot of guys, and we're talking about what Hurts is doing because he's not going to play. Carson Wentz is there. He said, we're trying to steal every rep. You know, sit behind him, right, and follow along as he's doing everything because you really don't know when you're going to get your chance to get in there. So Hurts was thinking along those lines. It sounds like Fields is thinking along those lines. And the other huge thing is once he is the starter, he's going to have to look around that huddle at guys who believe in him. So being there and being around and being a presence in that building is going to matter for when ultimately the job does end up being his, because the guys in that huddle are not going to be looking at a stranger. They're going to be looking at a guy whose leadership and work ethic they've already had a chance to watch.
Yeah, give me week 1 for Justin Fields starting. Not that anybody asked me for my opinion. Another rookie who is a quarterback with a new team is Trey Lance, of course, to the 49ers. But head coach Kyle Shanahan likes what he saw out of his veteran quarterback, saying, quote, I think Jimmy, meaning Jimmy Garoppolo, had his best spring since we've had him. I thought Jimmy came in really good shape, really locked in, a good place physically and mentally. And I thought he had as good of OTAs as he's had. Graz, we go right back to you. Is this something, nothing, or everything?
I'd say nothing because I don't think there's anything new here, right? We know that the 49ers and Kyle Shanahan, like Jimmy Garoppolo, think they can win with him, have been to a Super Bowl with him as long as he stays healthy. But the reason Trey Lance is there is mainly because Garoppolo hasn't stayed healthy. So really, nothing that happens in OTAs is going to determine the Garoppolo situation. It's when Lance is ready, they're going to end up having to ship Jimmy G out of town, whether that's August or October or next March. It just doesn't. It's not going to depend on how good Jimmy G looks in OTAs. It's just going to depend on when Lance is ready and when they're ready to make that transition to their future at quarterback.
Yeah, I think it's something only insofar as Kyle Shanahan would love for the rest of the NFL to believe that they love Jimmy Garoppolo and that he looks great. And we've got a nice QB here, and it would be a shame if someone traded for him. The reality is they traded away their future for Trey Lance to be their starter. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that he starts week 1, but in my mind, that is predicated on what Trey Lance does this summer, not on what Jimmy Garoppolo does. They know who Jimmy Garoppolo is. Trey Lance is still a raw quarterback who has not, played that many reps, frankly, and I think that's what they need to see out of Trey before giving him the green light to start.
You know, y'all ever been in one of those relationships where it's coming to an end and your partner has broke up with you, but they tell you you are such a nice person and you're beautiful and I wish you so much success going forward. I don't want to hear that. You just broke up with me. That's what Shanahan is doing. He's trying to ease the blow. They understand. Like, I get it. They may need Jimmy G and all of this, whatever. He took Trey Lance 3rd overall in the NFL draft. Jimmy G knew that day, no matter what he did, looking good in OTAs or having success, he was getting the hell up out of there. So that's all Jimmy G waiting on. It's just great that they can have a great relationship after the breakup. That's all this is.
Honeymoons are usually where you start a relationship. This is like a closing honeymoon for Jimmy G and Kyle Shanahan. I see what you're getting at.
It is.
Swagoo. All right, let's move forward to another quarterback. The last
I don't want you no more, but you're a great guy.
Here's what Bill Belichick had to say about Mac Jones. Quote, I think Mac has a pretty good understanding of the things that we do. He has to go out there and do them and get more comfortable with them, so it's a process. Certainly giving his very best effort to do everything we've asked him to do it, and the way we've asked him to do it, which is a great place to start. He's earned a lot of respect for that, but he has a long way to go. All right, Mina, is this something, nothing, or everything?
I'm actually going to go with something because there is a lot of honesty in that quote. Maybe a little bit too much honesty if Bill was in the sort of relationship that Marcus is describing, because you don't want to tell your partner you got a long way to go, which is what he just said about Mac Jones. I think it's the truth. I also think in New England there is a genuine quarterback competition. I've said this since they drafted Mac Jones. I continue to believe it. It's not like these other towns where I do believe they want want the rookies to start as soon as possible. I think Bill really wants to see how it plays out this summer, see how quickly Mac picks up the offense, whether Cam Newton looks more accurate than he did last season, and then he's going to make his decision in August.
Listen, this is too, Mina, and you make a great point, but I'm going to go and make a basketball analogy, right? John Stockton is a Hall of Famer, one of the best point guards to ever play the game. John Stockton never went out and averaged 30 a night. He never did that. That's what Mac Jones is going to be for the New England Patriots. And Bill Belichick cannot wait until he just gets a point guard at the position to facilitate and let everybody else make plays. That's based on what they did this offseason. I'm not saying Cam can't do it, but he didn't do it last year. So we'll see how this training camp goes. But Mac Jones was drafted by the New England Patriots to be a point guard, not to be a 4,000 or 5,000 yard passer a year. Take care of the football, get it in our playmakers' hands. That's how we know the formula of success to be.
Yeah, well, I mean, so if it doesn't work out, they can just trade him to the 76ers, I think, who are in desperate need of that position. Look, I think Mina's absolutely right. I think it is a quarterback competition in New England, and I think, Mac Jones has to beat out Cam Newton. Now you could say, oh, well, the way Cam played last year, how hard is that going to be? But the Patriots do like Cam Newton, and they think he's capable of more than he showed last year. So I do think they're going to be watching this closely all throughout camp. I think Jones has a fair shot to win the job, but I don't know that it's a sure thing. Cam could still come on and hold on to it.
Yeah, Dan, I think it's worth noting. I think you're right. I'm not calling it a likelihood necessarily, but there's a non-zero chance that Cam Newton looks a lot better this year with a full offseason, full health, and understanding of the playbook than he did last year when things cratered in a hurry. Still to come, a former Patriots quarterback, you may have heard of him, Tom Brady, had a lot of suitors last offseason, but one team decided to pass up on the GOAT, and he was not impressed with the guy they decided to stick with.
One of the teams, they weren't interested at the very end. I was thinking, you're still...
How to improve their game. Earlier today on First Take, George Kittle spoke on the importance of the position.
There's a lot of teams that say, well, we can sacrifice at the tight end position if we have elite wide receivers, if we have elite running backs, an elite quarterback, an elite left tackle. But if you look at the past, 10 years, every team that's been in Super Bowl contention has had an elite tight end on the field. I mean, look what the Patriots did with Gronk. Look what the Chiefs are doing with Kelsey. We're trying to get back, but we were in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. The Packers have been in the NFC Championship game back-to-back years. The teams that are playing at elite levels have elite tight ends that are making plays for them on a consistent basis.
It's clear to see how the tight end position has evolved over the years. Since 2011, there have been 22 instances of a tight end gaining 1,000 receiving yards in a season, up from just 15 times in the previous 20 years combined. Travis Kelce and Darren Waller both had over 1,000 yards last season, ranking in the top 10 amongst all players, regardless of position. All right, so Swagoo, how has the position evolved in the offensive scheme of things around the NFL?
Yeah, somewhere along the line, people figured out that these guys are damn near impossible to guard, especially when you have people on the outside of them that can make plays as well. And then it became about those guys being prolific in the red zone and being able to create mismatches there. I think about Rudolph against the New Orleans Saints catching a game winner. You think about Travis Kelce getting the Kansas City Chiefs going. Obviously, Kittle and his ability to work not only the middle of the field, but even spreading these guys out. Listen, this ain't about blocking no more, damn it. They bring in an extra offensive lineman for that. They want these guys to catch passes and touchdowns. Blocking is an added thing that's just great to have. But when you look at these players that we mentioned in Kelce and Kittle, who can block, I'm not saying they can't, okay? But they ain't getting paid $15 million to make sure the running back clean. They getting paid that type of money to go over 1,000 to be red zone guys that will devastate you, and then middle of the field workers when you get them matched up either on linebackers or safeties. On safeties, the safeties are giving up size majority of the time, and the linebackers just don't have that athletic ability, some of them, to stay with those guys, especially when they're running option routes when they have two-way goals. Listen, I played with one of the greatest tight ends to ever play the game, Jason Witten. Jason Witten ain't as athletic as me right now, But he understood the position, understood how to work the middle of the field, and he took advantage of size, matchups against safeties and linebackers. He's going to get a gold jacket because of it. He was one of those guys, him, Tony Gonzalez, all of these guys being responsible for where this position is right now. And now these guys are taking it to another level. They going for 1,000 like it ain't nothing.
I think it's a lot about coaches and offensive coordinators just finding and exploring and developing different ways to use these guys. Think about this. There were 3 wide receivers taken in the top 10 in this year's draft. The Atlanta Falcons, who knew they were a month away from trading Julio Jones, left all those guys on the board and picked a tight end, Kyle Pitts, because they look at him as a guy that can help them replace a lot of the things Julio Jones can do. Yes, they took Calvin Ridley in the first round a couple of years back, but this is a player that they really feel can be a matchup dominator in a way that Julio Jones was throughout his career there. So, Kittle's a dominator as a run blocker, and I think that's well known around the league. But you're right, Marcus, he's getting paid because of the way he catches the ball and scores touchdowns, and I think that that's the first thing